What was the best revenge you ever got on a rude cashier? 1. It was not the cashier but the store manager. My wife and I had stopped by a local chain store that sold discount tools. They were having a sidewalk sale and had many items sitting outside under a big sign saying 50% off. One of the items there was a milling machine, original price about $1,000. $500 for a milling machine was a very good price. So I went to chat with the wife who stayed in the car while I was looking around. She agreed that it looked like a good deal and had no issue with me purchasing it. I grabbed the price tag off the milling machine and headed into the store to the cashier. First thing I did was point out the milling machine, show her the tag and ask, is this really 50% off? She said yes, she believed so, and called over the store manager on duty. Asked the same question and he confirmed that it was indeed 50% off. I asked if I bought it now could I come pick it up tomorrow. I only had my car and there was no way I could fit the 500 pounds milling machine in it. He said no problem, he would have it moved to the back loading dock where I could pick it up the next day. So I pulled out my credit card and paid for the milling machine. Got my receipt and off I left a happy camper. Next day called up my buddy who had a pickup truck and he agreed to help me go pick it up and unload it into my garage. So after work we headed over to the tool store. I went in and let the cashier know we were here to pick up the mill. She said to meet the manager around back where they can load it up for us. So we got around back and the store manager was waiting for us. The mill was sitting there and we backed up the truck. The manager came up to us and said, I'm sorry but I cannot let you have the milling machine. The price you paid is too low. We need an additional $300 or I can give you a refund. I told him I did not want a refund, I wanted the machine. I calmly explained to him that the milling machine does not belong to him anymore. I have a receipt for its purchase. The manager refuses to let us load up the machine. I told him I'll be in touch and we left. After getting home I did a little research and found the parts of the commercial code that covers sales and failure to deliver products and confirmed I was on solid legal ground. Next I found the address of the legal representative for the chain store and the national office headquarters. I drafted a demand letter including a copy of the receipt, sections of the commercial code and a description of what happened and my demand that they deliver my machine to me by the next Friday or I would file suit in small claims court where I could claim treble damages. Sent the copies off certified mail. Thursday next week I got a phone call from the store manager. He apologized and said I can come by to pick up the milling machine. I told him no. I had already tried to do that and I will not go to that expense and trouble to do so. I told him he needed to deliver the machine to me at my home and gave him the address. He said there is no way he can do that. I let him know he had until Friday to deliver the machine and hung up on him. A couple hours later he called back and very sheepishly asked, when do you want it delivered? I really like that milling machine. 2. My husband was out on a job site and needed something couriered to him. I took the parcel to the courier. Husband asked me to phone him and let him talk to the courier when I got there because he had some convoluted instructions for the delivery. So I had my phone out as I reached the counter. The cashier abruptly said she wouldn't deal with people that were on their phones. I tried to explain but she kept interrupting and said I had to hang up or she would just take the next customer. So I hung up. I gave her the parcel and she asked where I was sending it. I told her I had no idea. I would have to phone my husband so he could tell her. She was a little sheepish as I called him back and put the phone on speaker so they could have the necessary conversation. 3. When I was 16 I worked in the oil field during summer vacation near my grandmother's home. When I got my first paycheck, I went to the local bank, only bank in town, to cash it. The cashier was a friend of my grandmother and we talked more about how she was doing more than paying attention to what we were doing. As I was leaving the bank, I counted my money and discovered that I was $20 short from cashing my check. I returned to the cashier and explained that she had not given me the correct amount. She angrily explained that once I left her window there was nothing that she could do about the error. Fast forward about 10 years, I was back in town visiting my grandmother and needed to cash a check. So I went to the same local bank. The friend of my grandmother was still working there and she cashed my check. We reminisced about past time, her family, my family, and so forth. As I was leaving her window, she called me back and said she had overpaid me on my cashing of the check. I verified that she indeed had given me $50 more than the check amount. I reminded her about the time she shorted me $20 and her explanation that once I left her window, there was nothing that could be done to correct the error. I did give the $50 back, but to the bank manager and not her. I also related the entire story to him as well. He called the lady into his office as I left. I never went back to that bank again. Often wondered what transpired after I left. 4. When my boys were young I worked in a small private school and that is where they attended. We often stopped at a gas station on the way to school that had a breakfast service. I was getting our drinks and my sons ordered at the counter. This woman who I had never seen before began yelling at them. She was really nasty. I came running and got between her and my boys. The manager came running and I told him what had happened. Why she was screaming at my boys. She thought they were stealing. Now we had gotten breakfast at this place at least 3 days a week for 2 years. She was new. I don't know what happened to her but we never got food there again. 5. Back in the 60s, before anyone had heard the word environment, I went to a department store and bought a half yard of fabric. As I paid I told the cashier that I didn't want a sack. Well, seems I had to have a sack. I refused. She called the manager who told me I had to take a sack, or I would be arrested for shoplifting. My suggestion that he walk me to the door with my purchase and receipt was met with refusal and if I even tried walking to the door he would call security and have me arrested for lack of a sack. So I told them to refund my money, which they did. Now they had to restock the half yard, and since it not a full yard, it was put in the remnants bin at 50% off. I promptly repurchased it, took the sack and left. On my way out, I handed the neatly folded bag to the store grader and asked him to put it back at the register, which he did for me. A happy ending.